Go.
Alright, so we're looking at right knee joint and first off we're looking at flexion or flexing, abducting and internal rotating. So sagittal plane influence, frontal plane influence, brain's gone, frontal plane, so so it would just be in here, a little bit more abduction, and even there, well, that's better, and internal rotation, and frontal transverse, sagittal frontal, sagittal transverse, knee drive with rotation of the arms, the knee going forward, rotating there, and transverse, frontal transverse, and all three together. Okay, looking at flexion, a deduction and internal rotation of the right knee. So we need to start from an abducted position and we're just coming across to get so there and there, coming into flexion. Okay, so coming from abducting, adducting, and we'll just start from here. So a little bit more there, and influencing a little bit more abduction of that knee. And internal rotation, I'm just going to get okay, sagittal and frontal will just be there, just trying to get more flexion out of the knee whilst we're getting frontal plane motion coming from that abducted position. Sagittal transverse, so go from here, frontal transverse, we'll just come from here to here, that going quite so low, and all three together, something like, my ankle's going to snap here. And there's a little bit of arms. Okay, looking at right knee flexion, abduction and external rotation. So we'll very quickly run through this. So we're just looking at that motion there for a bit of flexion, turning the toe out, and to get a little bit more abduction, it's sort of more out, sort of that motion there, and a little bit more external rotation, it's just that motion there. And if we're looking, that's the sagittal frontal transverse planes, so if we want sagittal and frontal, it's a little bit of that motion. Sagittal transverse is that motion, frontal transverse is that motion, all three together is something like that. side doesn't quite like that motion. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
we're looking at knee flexion, right knee flexion, adduction, and external rotation. So we're looking from so it's lifting that calcaneus up, taking the knee out. Okay, frontal plane. A little bit more to the side, transverse plane, a little bit more in rotation, frontal transverse, start from a little bit more extension, so front, sagittal frontal, sagittal transverse, so starting down, a little bit more extension, so a little bit more rotation. Frontal transverse is that knee coming in and then taking it out. And all together it's start down, start an extension, a reduction, and just driving through calcaneus. And we are going to look at right knee extending, adducting, and internally rotating. Okay, so we're looking at back foot gait, so sagittal plane influence from here, coming in to extension there. Frontal plane influence, we'll start in, knee in, and just taking that step through. And internal rotation will be sagittal frontal will be from here, stepping through. Sagittal transverse will be here. Frontal transverse will be here. And all three together will look something like okay, so we are extending, internally rotating, and abducting the right knee. So we are, so first one's a step up. So that would be your sagittal plane. Frontal plane would be and probably a higher step would work better, and then transverse plane, sagittal and frontal, a little bit more flexion. Sagittal transverse, a little bit more rotation. Frontal transverse. And all three together will be something like Okay, my attempt at extending, abducting and externally rotating the knee. So from a flex position, sagittal plane influence, frontal plane, no, that's okay, you could do it with a Swiss ball here really, just to roll my foot out on the Swiss ball. If you kind of get my meaning, taking that knee into abduction, externally rotating, same thing with a Swiss ball, and then just a bit more external rotation, just with my foot driving. Sagittal frontal would be, again with the ball, starting up here and rolling it out. Sagittal transverse would be just a little bit more opening, and all three together would be a high ball just to roll it out and bring it back. Okay, last one on the knee, looking for extending, adducting and externally rotating. So could really do with a higher ball, so just imagine my foot is raised up higher, so I'm starting in more flexion, and my motion is to take it out. Obviously a higher ball would be more flex, going into a little bit more extension. If I'm going into frontal plane, I would take it out, so I'd start from a little bit more abduction, and then a little bit wider ball would allow me just to go into more adduction from an abducted position. External rotation would just be to just roll the foot over the ball, again from that abducted position. Flexion, sagittal and frontal, again higher ball, just taking it more out to the side, so from a more abducted position, taking it out to the side, taking it through adduction and more flexion. And sagittal transverse, I'll be higher up, just taking it more out to the side. Sagittal, so frontal and transverse, it would be that real abduction of the knee, taking it into more adduction, and all three together would just be all of that coupled together.